Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Networking Events Done Right, Designing Experiences that Truly Connect. Today, we're going to cover how to design effective networking experiences that really resonate with your audience, whether you're planning a one-off event or a series of gatherings. By the end of this session, you'll have actionable strategies for ensuring that every networking opportunity really creates those meaningful connections. Just to go over a few housekeeping items, you can join the chat on the right side of your screen. You can submit some questions in the Q&A section that we're going to answer at the end, and you can download this slide deck under resources at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about myself. My name is Kirsten Sargent, and I am on the meeting events team at Cvent. And I plan our internal and external events along with our amazing team over here, like our big one, Cvent Connect, which hopefully some of you guys have been to. So a huge portion of my job is planning these networking events of all shapes and sizes, as well as these experiential marketing experiences. So I'm really excited to talk about it all today with you. So now I'm going to pass it over to our other speaker, Jennifer Bialik.
Thanks, Kirsten. To give a quick introduction, I'm the Senior Manager of Sponsorships here at Cvent, and I work closely with our partners and sponsors to create unique activations that engage attendees and deliver strong ROI back to the sponsor. So lots of networking involved in all of that. I work very closely with our planning team and just really excited to be here and talk a little bit more about networking with you today. So kicking off, the importance of networking. We event people have been desperate to prove ROI since the beginning of time. Traditionally, success was measured by how many leads or direct revenue we generated from events. But things have shifted. The ROI of events now includes engagement and emotional resonance. Today, it's not just about pipeline and sales. It's about whether your event builds trust and connection, creating long-term value for your brand. This is where networking really comes into play. It helps you expand your brand reach to get in front of the right people. It keeps you inspired and informed. Networking allows you to learn from others, stay on top of industry trends, and generate new ideas. It's a key driver of referrals and new leads. People trust recommendations from their network. Last but not least, strategic partnerships often begin through networking, leading to deeper collaborations that can grow your business. Let's look at some of the key statistics that show how important networking is. 25% of businesses saw an increase in qualified leads through their networking efforts. Salesforce found that 86% of customers say they are more likely to stay loyal to a company with a strong community and networking strategy. These numbers show that investing in a networking event isn't just a nice to have, it's a powerful driver of business results.
All right, so we have a few key considerations when planning a networking event, and we really want to talk about those three key elements that is going to ensure your success. So we've got the space, the audience, and the goals. So first off, we have the space. Those unique and more flexible venues are gaining a lot of popularity. So according to Cvent's 2023 Planner Sourcing Survey, 45% of planners want more flexible space and 35% prioritize aesthetics. The right venue really sets the tone for your event. A visually appealing, adaptable space really encourages those better interactions and more meaningful connections. Second one we're going to talk about is the technology, the audience. So AI-driven tools can significantly enhance the networking experience. Cvent's AI can pull data from LinkedIn profiles to help attendees complete their own profiles, which really drives better matchmaking and connects people with those shared goals. This makes networking really intentional and effective. Third, we want to align our networking event with business objectives, so those goals. So it's important to tie your event to clear outcomes like generating leads, building community engagement, or driving loyalty. Programs with strong community strategies are proven to deliver these tangible results, like increased product usage and retention.
Now that we've covered why networking is so important and the key considerations for planning an event, let's talk about how to tailor networking experiences for different audiences. Customers, prospects, partners, and VIPs each have unique needs and expectations, and your networking strategy should reflect those differences.
So customers want value and peer connections from the networking events. So here's how to deliver. Let's talk about the facilitated roundtables. So think about your seating strategy at these. You want customers to easily discuss their challenges amongst peers. We also have the interactive workshops, and that's really providing those hands-on activities where they can collaborate and share solutions amongst themselves. You can provide group activities that require teamwork, like a collaborative project brainstorm or a group game. Then we also have the customer-only networking hour. You can host exclusive sessions for customers to build deeper connections in a more relaxed environment. So our goal, what do we want? We want to build stronger customer loyalty and gather insights for future product improvements. So companies with customer engagement strategies report a 10% increase in satisfaction. So a well-designed customer networking event can also lead to higher upsell opportunities. We also want to talk about authenticity. So when designing networking events for prospects, the goal is to build trust and show your value. Here's how you can deliver. So we have those peer-led panels. So discussing topics or trends that they care about and show you really put their needs first. You've got those low pressure icebreakers. So using icebreakers to get prospects talking without the pressure of that hard sell. You've got industry specific or those personalized networking groups. So where you can create spaces where prospects can mingle and make connections amongst their peers. And focus on the low-key vibes, that lounge seating. So setting up a lounge style seating with soft lighting, more of a relaxed atmosphere that really encourages that open conversation. You really want to try and avoid those high pressure environments, which goes back to a couple slides ago where we were talking about the venue selection. So our goal, again, what do we want? We want to build trust with prospects and guide them towards future opportunities without being overly salesy and move them down the sales funnel. Effective networking at this stage helps nurture leads and builds rapport that can really lead to those conversations.
Vendors and partners want collaboration. Networking events should strengthen these partnerships and provide opportunities for co-marketing and co-selling. When designing networking events for prospects, the goal is to build trust and show your value. Here's how we can make that happen. Co-hosting networking events. Partners and vendors partner with vendors or other partners to host an event and emphasize collaboration. And one-on-one introductions. Facilitate curated, pre-scheduled meetings between partners and key stakeholders. Overall, what you want is to strengthen partnerships and explore future collaboration opportunities. It's about fostering deeper strategic connections where both parties can see clear business value.
All right, so now let's talk about those VIPs. So VIPs want exclusivity and those tailored experiences that really feel unique to them. They're not just looking for regular interactions. They expect those premium, high-touch events. When designing networking events for your prospects, the goal is to build trust and show your value. So this VIP networking event should create an environment where these high-level guests can really build relationships in that more intimate setting, whether that's through a private dinner or exclusive preview events. Think those Michelin star meals, multi-course meals really get people to talk and stay there for a while. So here's how we deliver. Private VIP reception. Host an invite-only event for those top clients and decision makers. Pick that premium venue with the experience, like I mentioned. Choose a luxury venue and offer elevated food and beverage options. Last but not least, we want to have those personalized introductions. So assign VIPs a dedicated host from your company to really facilitate introductions to those key people. So our goal, we want to build deep relationships with VIPs, positioning our brand as a trusted, high-value partner.
Great. Now that we've discussed how to design for different audiences, let's move on to the various formats your networking events can take. Whether it's networking within a larger event or a standalone gathering, each format serves different purposes and goals.
So first, we're going to talk about those events within events. Events within events are networking sessions hosted as a part of a larger event, like a conference or a seminar. These are an opportunity to create structured time for people to connect without overshadowing the main event. Think about strategically placing these moments, such as during lunch or between presentations, to really give attendees space to connect naturally. A couple examples of that would be a networking breakout session during lunch or a cocktail hour after the main presentation. Then we have events at events. Satellite events are smaller, more intimate networking events that you host during or alongside a larger industry event. For example, hosting a private dinner or a happy hour at a major conference allows you to connect with key attendees in a more focused environment. These events create space for deeper conversations while taking advantage of the bigger events audience. Example would be hosting a private dinner or event for your clients and prospects at a major industry conference. So we have a couple of photos here. We have Braze hosting a Women in Leadership brunch at their annual user conference. We also have some photos here of 6 Sense Club 6 at Dreamforce, and they do this at every big conference they attend. They host these exclusive offsite clubs/lounges with activities, and also to give people a chance to relax. So it seems to go over pretty well. Next up, we have the standalone events. So standalone networking events are all about connecting without competing priorities like content or other sessions happening at the same time. The focus here is purely on relationship building, whether through structured discussions, speed networking, or informal gatherings. These events should have clear objectives like generating new leads, deepening relationship with customers, or fostering those new partnerships. We have some photos here on the right-hand side as well. One example is Seismic's dinner series that they do, which really focuses on people in a particular industry.
And let's not forget about repeatable events. Repeatable gatherings are regular networking events that help build a sense of community over time. These events can be quarterly or even monthly, and they help build long-term relationships and create an ongoing dialogue among attendees. Data shows that companies with strong community engagement strategies see higher retention and loyalty. Consistency helps build deeper connections and trust. An example might be hosting a quarterly executive breakfast series where industry leaders come together regularly. Here we can see in the right side a picture of a splash event called Spark Connection, and it's a repeatable event they do that builds community.
All right, so now let's shift our focus to defining success for your networking events. It's not enough to simply host an event. You need to measure its impact, whether it's driving leads, accelerating deals, or supporting customer retention. When it comes to networking events, measuring success requires looking at both immediate business outcomes and the long-term impact of the relationships you've built. That's where ROI and ROE come in. So ROI is the traditional way we measure event success. It's about tracking direct business outcomes, like how many leads were generated, how many new partnerships are formed, did any deals close as a result of this event. For example, if your networking event brought together key prospects and partners, ROI would measure how many of those connections turned into actionable business opportunities within the next, say, 30, 60, 90 days. It's tangible and easy to track in your CRM. But with networking, we can't ignore the ROE, which is return on emotion. I think it's personally more important, but I'm not on the numbers side. Networking is about building trust and forming relationships that don't always result in that immediate revenue, but have a long-term business value. ROE looks at how well your event created those emotional resonance and personal connections. For ROE, we measure the depth of those connections. So did attendees feel like they made meaningful relationships? Were those connections strong enough to build trust and loyalty? You can measure this through post-event surveys, social media engagement, and feedback on how attendees felt about the event. Ultimately, networking events aren't just about closing deals on the spot. They're about fostering relationships that lead to future business. That's why both ROI and ROE are critical to measuring success. ROI captures the immediate, but ROE captures the future potential of those relationships.
It's important to talk about how you as an individual can make the most of your networking opportunities. Whether you're attending or sending your team to these events, personal networking strategies are key to making lasting connections. Let's dive into some best practices to help you or your team get the most out of every networking opportunity. Pre-event. Preparation is everything. Start by researching the event attendees. Use LinkedIn or event platforms to identify key people you want to connect with. Set clear goals. Are you looking to meet potential partners, prospects? Set a target for meaningful conversations you want to have. During the event, make the most of your interactions by being intentional. Don't focus on quantity, focus on quality. Take the time to engage in meaningful conversations. Ask questions, actively listen, and look for shared interest. Be prepared to introduce yourself and your company in a concise, engaging way. And post-event, follow-up is crucial. After the event, promptly reach out to new contacts, whether via email or LinkedIn. Reiterate your conversation and keep the dialogue going. Adding them to your CRM or relevant contact list is a great way to nurture those connections over time, especially when tied to future opportunities.
All right, so before we wrap up here, we have a couple of questions that we wanted to just get to before we get to our key takeaways. So we saw two questions that are already in here. The first one is, what do you do if your attendees are nervous about breaking the ice or talking to new people during your events? So I think that is a great question. I feel like we get that a lot. I know that it's hard to talk amongst people and some people get social anxiety. So that's why we typically do things in like a happy hour setting. And I know adding in those mocktails has been really popular lately. I would say I like to do not traditional icebreakers where we do maybe like a CSR activity during it or incorporate some type of like yoga or I don't know, sandcastle building. Like there's so many different examples of fun little like icebreaker things that you can do at events that just like make it a little bit easier. I don't know how you are, Jen, on site too, but I feel like I'm like personal, like between one-on-one, I'm very open. But then when you get me in front of a group, I kind of clam up and I'm going to go to the back of the room and kind of hide. I don't know how Jen is on site.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that when planners have infused their event with these engaging activations and activities for us to all kind of laugh at ourselves a little or do something fun and outside the box, especially the CSR activity that you mentioned, which is always just so great to give back to the community and do it together in a table setting or, in small groups. It's always a great way to break the ice and do those events early on in your programming.
Yeah, totally agree. And then I guess I'll just go ahead and answer the other one too while we're here, and then we'll do some wrap up. I know Jen and I talked very fast, so we just cruised through our content today. But the question was, what's the most unique networking event you have done? I feel like there's so many that we've done, but I think my favorite one that we've ever done is a goat yoga that I did, which I know I've talked about this on another webinar. So if you've been on a webinar where I've spoken, you've probably heard me talk about it because it was just such a fun networking event that we did. It got people talking. They were laughing because goats were like walking all over them while they were doing yoga. It's not just your typical like yoga class where it's quiet and relaxing. Like everyone was just like laughing and having a great time. Jen, I don't know if you have one that you've maybe attended that you really liked.
Yeah, we actually, I was on the organization team and we were doing a gala with a silent auction, and the networking part of the gala, we actually had people walk around with like sandwich boards on the silent auction prize on the front, and they had to write on the back their bid. And so you were kind of always trying to get the person to come over to you and check and see if your bid was going, and everybody was laughing, and there's like a little friendly competition, and it was just sort of out of the ordinary from a typical auction where you're bidding out loud and stuff like that. So I think it was great to do that during a networking where it kind of infused it with the auction and made it a little more fun.
I love that. That sounds great. So I guess before we go into our full Q&A portion, we'll get through our key takeaways that we learned today, and just kind of do a wrap up. And then Jen and I, like I said, we cruise through our content. So we're going to leave plenty of time at the end to go through all of your questions that you're asking. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up. So some key takeaways that we have from today's content is networking is key to building those long-term business relationships. Engagement is the new event currency. You really measure success not just by leads or sales, but by how well your event connected to people emotionally. You want to design your networking event to be tailored to your audience and aligned with your business goals. So make sure you align on these and track the right things based on what you are trying to accomplish. You've got the ROI and ROE, which is that return on emotion, should both be a part of your event strategy. It's not just about the numbers, but how your event made attendees feel and how it strengthened their connection to your brand. Remember that success metrics now include engagement, emotional impact, and long-term relationship building, not just immediate leads or sales. So all in all, keep it simple. It's about human connection. And if you can remember that, you can really deliver no matter your size, budget, or your scope. So like I said, before we go into Q&A, we want to leave you all with some more resources on networking. So first, we have a wonderful report by Skipped Meetings called Networking by Design, Crafting Events for Your Meaningful Connections. And the second one is Committed to Community, Why Belonging is Your New Currency of Business, and that one's by MPI. So we're going to drop the links in the chat for you so you can have access to those after the event.
Great, thanks so much. So thank you all for attending today's webinar on networking events. I hope you've gained some useful insights that you can apply to your next event or networking opportunity. Don't forget to take the strategies we've discussed today and put them into action to create impactful networking experiences for your business. If you think of anything after the session or want to connect further, please feel free to reach out to Kirsten or I on LinkedIn. And as Kirsten mentioned, we're happy to stick around and answer some of the additional questions in the chat.
Also wanted to point out that if you'd like to earn a $100 Amazon gift card to please sign up to complete a demo with us, you can just click the button that'll pop up at the bottom of your screen. And then just to note, any recipient outside of the US, the gift card can be converted from $100 US to another currency available of your choosing. All right, so as we promised, we're going to go ahead and get into that live Q&A here. So if you have questions for us, please put them in the chat. We see we have quite a few already, so Jen and I will be getting through these for you. Like I said, we have plenty of time to go through them. Let's see. I can answer this one. Any tips on F&B specifically on alcohol? There are actually a couple questions about here about alcohol specifically, and then providing some like more inclusive ones for people that don't drink. I think that's a great question, especially with inclusivity being kind of top of mind recently. At all of our events, we try to make sure that we have mocktails in addition to cocktails. Even for something like a cocktail making class, we make sure that we have a mocktail option for those people that don't want to drink, or like Jen and I mentioned, maybe are a little like don't want to participate in a happy hour. We kind of want to do something else. So just making sure to have another option that isn't just water or soda, you know, because that gets a little like bland at times too. Some people don't drink soda. So I would definitely incorporate mocktails of sorts, or if you have any like fun F&B activations that you can do outside of that. I've seen like you blow a balloon. I think Jennifer, you like showed that to me where it's like a candy balloon. So that's like a different like kind of F&B option. It's not alcohol related, but it's still like a fun activation to do at a happy hour.
Yeah, I think there's some great vendors out there who've really thought outside the box about how to do F&B activations. And I love the trend of mocktails now being more infused. So that's great.
All right. Let's see. There's a question for Jen in here.
Okay, let's see. I think we have one displayed here. Since it feels like a lot of activities revolve around providing alcohol, how to provide more inclusive opportunities for people that don't drink?
Yeah, so I think we just kind of touched on that one, but I would just say that like instead of doing a happy hour or in addition to a happy hour, you could have something kind of coinciding with it. You know, even if you have, let's just say an hour-long happy hour at your event, while you have the bar, you also have various other activations. Maybe you have a photo booth, maybe you have that, you know, balloon candy thing, or you have, trying to think of other ones, like a spin the wheel to like win prizes, like just making sure that you have like various other activities that are around the bar so that if you don't want to just go drink at the bar and stand around, you do have other opportunities to do something.
Okay, so the one for me here, how do you deal with sponsored networking? Giving the sponsor value, but not taking away from attendees networking, which is the ultimate goal. This is definitely tricky. And I think that the number one piece of advice I would give here is to set expectations with the sponsor ahead of time. Talk about, you know, what's going on at the event, what our goal is, so they understand that, understand what they're trying to accomplish, and make sure that they have a very defined role, whether they're providing an opening remarks at the networking event as the sponsor, or they have people from their team attending and talking to people throughout. It should be clearly defined what the sponsor is doing, the branding they'll receive, but also have a clear understanding of the greater purpose of the event. And my experience, sponsors have always been very respectful of that. Let's see here. I think that is important. Another thing that I have seen done is that a company might provide the leads of everybody who attended that specific networking reception so that the sponsor's not necessarily trying to go around and scan a whole bunch of badges at the place. It's something that's already included in the benefits and deliverables of the agreement. It makes it a little, just everything go a little smoother, but ensures their ROI is there.
Great. I will get to the next question. So we have one. How do you best communicate what attendees should expect when starting something new? I just did an event and a few people mentioned they almost didn't come because they weren't sure what it would be like, but they loved it. I think that's a great question. I think that honestly, you have to over communicate. So you have to send those pre-event emails, send that know before you go email, and let people know what they're expecting. And then also utilize social media. So we use social media a lot, whether it's most of the time it's LinkedIn, but just doing like fun little videos. Let's just say you are planning on having a happy hour with 4 other different like activations at it. You can do a little like teaser video to showcase, what the other activities are. Even if they're sponsored, I think that's a great opportunity, as kind of like Jen mentioned, to add that into your sponsorship agreement that, hey, we're going to do a pre-event video for you that's really highlighting what you're going to be sponsoring it while you're there. So you kind of get that aspect where they're excited, their brand's going to be out there before the event, but then also your attendee is going to be able to see what they're going to be doing before the event.
I like this question here. So I work with community college students and would like to host a networking event with potential employers and our four-year college partners. Any suggestions on how to set this up? I personally think gamification is huge. And I think that the days of having tables in a row for students or attendees to kind of stop by is, I think now technology offers a lot more around that. And to be able to add a gamification component where attendees have to learn something new about each of those colleges they didn't know before. And then there is maybe a incentive or a prize at the end if you visited 5 and then we're able to explain which one you like best and why. Really kind of putting the onus on them to really engage and interact with each of those colleges in their case, and have the attendees incentivized and have more of like a agenda where they can go around and visit each one, not just, to check the boxes, but to really learn. What do you think, Kirsten?
Yeah, I totally agree.
We've done scavenger hunts, we've done, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, let's get to this one. Any new trending interactive food options to engage attendees? So actually, we're working on some fun things for our upcoming event at Cvent Connect Europe. We actually worked really close on our team with Jennifer on some specific sponsors that can do like fun activations during happy hours, because again, we wanted to do something different. And that's where we got that like candy balloon that I was talking about. I'm trying to remember what else they were doing because they had so many fun options that you could do.
There's the like nitro ice cream, which is very popular. I've seen that at trade shows that I've been to, and something we're looking at doing at Connect Europe as well. I've also seen really fun food and beverage activations where you're trying to provide some branding for the sponsor. One is like a logoed lollipop or even a selfie lollipop. I think this one company offers the ability to really brand in a unique, fun way different things around food and beverage. Certainly the edible balloons and the anything to do with like fountains and fun ways to do that, or bite-sized things. So many really, really cool things out there now with vendors trying to keep up with the competition. I think it's really created a great environment for us as event, in the event industry where we can offer some really unique things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's also really fun too if you have a specific sponsor that wants to, say sponsor a happy hour, and you can kind of go with their specific theme. So if their like logo has an orange in it, you can do everything is like orange themed and like really just like theme it up and kind of go into it. We did that, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago at Connect US, where Visit Orlando was a sponsor of ours. And so I did like orange, you glad you came to Cvent Connect, and just like, it was just orange everything, like orange flavors, orange colors, like just really like ham it up. So I think that you can always just kind of really go into that too if you have a sponsor that has like a logo or something specific about them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the last one I think that I've heard a lot about is really appealing to the senses. So flavors and scents, and even if it's, something that they can stop by and try to guess the flavor or guess the scent, and having them tune into their different senses between smell and taste and, all of that. And those really have been well received as well.
Yeah, we did that at a trade show not too long ago too, where we had like somebody come in and scent it. So our trade show booth smelled like cookies, and just like the smell of cookies on the trade show floor just like really brought people in, like just like all coming to our booth because they were smelling cookies. So that's a great point, Jen, just like really focusing on the senses that you wouldn't really think of beforehand. Yeah, that was great.
That's amazing. I would go to a booth that smelled like cookies. That sounds
right. I know. I was like, this is amazing.
Okay, what else here?
Well, this is a good one. I think the days of plastic junk on vendor tables is dated. How do we move away from this?
So I've actually seen some pretty creative ways to do this recently. One was somebody's business card had a QR code on it where you could scan and get a gift or a small thing from them by reaching out and following up. So it encouraged follow-up, reduced, waste in shipping, and having to carry something home with you. And they were able to send something afterwards. I've also seen in terms of on the gifting side, really a transition to digital stores and gifting shops where attendees can go online and, pick something they want rather than being given something that they may not ever use, and then that being shipped to their house, as opposed to having to ship all the stuff to an event and then everybody carrying things home. So just trying to streamline it as much as possible.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too. Like as a planner going on site and, just not having to carry all that stuff back with you too, like in your carry-on, or like you said, like it's not necessarily something that you'd want and then you feel bad like throwing it away. From a sustainability aspect of it, like you're only taking something if you really want it. So then providing it to you after, or like you said, a store, I think is fantastic. And then, yeah, just on that sustainability aspect, we've kind of been going to sponsors and exhibitors and just, you know, helpfully asking them to like let them know we're trying to cut down on, you know, paper, plastic, shipping, that kind of thing. So like just to really keep that in mind when they're doing things on site, that we're trying to be more sustainable. So don't just, you know, print out 1,000 pamphlets. Like, how about we have a QR code and you can download it or something like that. Let's see. How about we move to this one? Have you seen some of the younger generations, newer ones like Gen Z, have different opinions on what they want from networking events? How are they different from millennials or Gen X? So I personally feel like I have noticed that they want more experiences as opposed to just those happy hours. So like we mentioned earlier, like having those different little like activations and like things that they can put on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, like really creating something fun that they want to like be a part of or see, I think has been a huge change from what we're used to. And then just utilizing that on site too. Like using Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok to like post reels and videos and things while we're on site at the event too, I think has been like a huge difference over the last like couple of years.
100%. I mean, so Gen Z is, if they were born in the mid to late 90s to early 2010s. And I think this generation needs like immediate gratification. So really being able to see, just like you said, the social post, and they're really great about also doing those social posts and tagging us on site right after it happened. And so I appreciate that so much as an event planner, because we want to create that, you know, buzz around the event. I also think they don't have the attention span to sit necessarily in a, you know, 90-minute session. And I think it has to be engaging. I love the ones I attend that we go in and we kind of sit down and talk about what we're going to do, and then we break into small groups and we get sticky notes, and we're doing something and learning and engaging with the other people in the session who clearly have shared interests with us. So I think that's almost an expectation, and with this generation that has that shorter attention span.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're getting to the end of our questions here. Someone asked in the chat if this is recorded. Yes, we will have it recorded and share it after this event. Yeah.
What about this one here? And recommendation for an event within a larger conference where it's a cash bar, not hosted. Sort of setting expectations ahead of time with that smaller group that's invited to this event within an event, that this is something that, you know, will be taking place, but there is a cash bar. So make sure, you know, they are prepared for that when they arrive. Anything else there, Kirsten?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say as well. Kind of goes back to earlier what we were saying, just to over communicate when you're sending out those pre-event emails, when you're sending that know before you go, just make sure it's clearly put in there so people are prepared and don't come on site and, you know, don't have anything. Also have an ATM on site too, I think is a good plan. So if they didn't bring cash with them, because a lot of time people don't have cash, make sure an ATM, or if they're able to accept like Venmo payments or something, having a little QR code. I think there's a couple of options there.
Totally agree. And especially with the Gen Zers who never carry cash on them, having that nearby. What I love that Cvent does is we actually send out the daily communication, because there's so much going on around an event, and we certainly communicate ahead of time. But when you get on site, sometimes it's nice to have a quick morning email that says, hey, today we're doing this. We've got this, this, and this. And by the way, that event tonight is a cash bar. Make sure you stop by the ATM in the lobby of your hotel, and just sort of put it right front of mind, again, the same day. Because I think with some events that are on the larger side, there's so many small components of the event that they can easily get lost within their list of things that they're doing that day.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see.
Oh, here's one. What's this answer? Okay. Any tips on offering networking opportunities with extremely restricted budget? So I saw this, and my first thought here was to sort of like go back to the basics. So it could be doing an icebreaker that involved buttons or stickers where people have to, you know, kind of align with others that they know. And I think there's a lot of really fun things that could be done with buttons, and even just like different stickers or missions that they have that are very low cost but high engagement.
Yeah. And then also, like we were just talking about, you can also utilize a cash bar too. That's a good thing that you don't have to pay for a hosted bar, or changing it to on consumption can be a little bit cheaper sometimes if you have other things happening. You don't think people are just going to be just standing at the bar the whole time. Also, something we've also kind of touched on is you could try and get it sponsored. So see if you can get some of those networking events sponsored, so that you don't have to cover that cost. That can also be a helpful thing for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And something about along those lines is it may not be able to get the whole event sponsored and paid for, but even if you can get a portion of it and try to section out different things like a sponsored bar or a sponsored, component where the sponsor pays a smaller amount, so you're more likely to get sponsors rather than charging a huge amount for sponsorship and you don't get it. And then you end up with all the cost of the event. The other thing I was going to say on a design front, I've heard that really just using uplighting and lights for decoration can be really inexpensive. And so talking with your venue on how you can maximize your budget to make it a great ambiance and environment, but not spend too much on decor and rentals.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jen. And just asking the venue too, like, what can you use that doesn't cost you anything?
Yeah, what they have already, right? Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is a good question. How to drive more connections or discussions around different topics during happy hours or lunches? This would be for the events within the events. So I love this question. At our events, we try and do a couple of things. So the first one is we have these meetup zones that we have during our happy hours, and we advertise them beforehand, send it out to all the attendees so they know what meetup's happening, where, when. And then during that time, everyone goes to that specific portion on the show floor, if you will, and then they can just have an open discussion about whatever meetup topic there is. So we usually have a couple of those meetup zones at each of our larger events. And then also during lunches, we've done little like round table discussion, like printout type things. So it's like a little like tripod thing where we list like a couple of fun like discussion questions that you can talk someone to your table at, just to really facilitate people talking during lunch and communicating and kind of going through those different topics.
Yep, I totally agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. Table cards and just different suggested topics.
Let's see. Jen, do you want to answer this one? Let's see. Where did it go?
Any tips for casting a wide net out to sponsors? Okay, so assuming this means like to get sponsors and to cast a wide net for prospective sponsors, I think that the primary thing to do would be to think about who's attending and who would want to reach those attendees, and really think outside the box. Because sometimes I may be marketing to a certain group and then somebody contacts me and I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, oh my gosh, we do all this great stuff with event planners. And I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, yes, we really want to reach your audience. And so just trying to think outside the box of who you're trying to target as sponsors and who would benefit the most from your attendees and getting to interact with them. Being very clear in your communications with the opportunities that you offer. Depending on the size of the event, obviously you can have a very complex offering of sponsorship, or it can be very simple with different levels and benefits. So really just coming up with a prospect list, do your homework on similar events and who their sponsors or exhibitors are, who would be most benefit from meeting your attendees, and then sending out regular communication. I think I read somewhere that somebody has to say something 7 times before they act on it. So you may have to send it out a few times before that person's like, gosh, I'm meaning to respond to you. We'd love to sponsor. So clear repeat communication to a concise prospect list with opportunities that really deliver value to them. Local recognition and is not really the highest benefit anymore. Really, it's about how they can get specific engagement, what will help them stand apart from other sponsors and a sea of logos. So thinking about the opportunities and making them beneficial to the sponsor so they'll walk away and come back next year.
Wow, I can't believe 7 times that somebody'd have to see it. That's insane.
I could see that.
That is wild to me. All right, let's get through just a few more questions. We're almost at the end here. So I can answer this one. How can you make a hotel ballroom feel more intimate without a decor budget? I think that's a great question. So one thing kind of we've already touched on earlier that Jen mentioned is just changing the lighting. So you can really just adjust that lighting in the hotel ballroom to not have the lights all the way up and bright, like really bringing them more like down, lower levels. So obviously you can still see everybody, just making it more of like a lower lighting. Also, if it's a smaller group, definitely putting those air walls up so it's not a full open ballroom and just you have the people, they're just more close together. So it's not just like a huge open space. It makes it feel more like intimate and close. And if you have that smaller area, you could, get a few small like lounge chairs, couches, like coffee tables, things like that, and just throw a couple of those in with some high tops. And that will really just change the whole like look of the room without having to do too much in there. Let's see.
What about this one here? What is a good exit survey question most people don't think to ask, but can be helpful? I think that for this one, you want to find a way to get specific feedback. So there's all the generic questions and they're like 5, 5, 5, yes, it's great, it's great, it's great. But it's like, if you can find a way to include some text boxes where they have to provide some written responses and really think about a specific part of the event, and I think that might give you the insight that is most valuable. Anything else from your end, Kirsten?
Yeah, not really. I feel like that's a tough question. We just have such a great team over here that like does these for us. So Jen and I don't necessarily have to think about like good survey questions to ask because our team like handles it for us. So we're just really lucky in that sense.
Totally. I mean, when I'm reading all the survey answers, one I love is when they ask like, what was your favorite part? And sometimes I'm surprised that some of the unique aspects, it's such a simple question, but I'm surprised some things really stand out to people. And I'm like, that was your favorite part? I mean, that's amazing. And so it gives us insight into kind of what people expected to appreciate and then what they left appreciating the most of the event and where we need to, do more or keep doing for the next event.
Yeah. I definitely love the more open-ended questions, like you said, because you get more, it's not just like on a scale of 1 to 10, did you like it? Did you not? It's really asking the more like intimate questions, like you mentioned, and you have those return on emotions that we talked about in our presentation earlier, that really seeing how the different experiences or networking events that you did throughout just really resonated with people. So yeah, definitely more of like an open-ended.
Here's one, and I actually have dealt with in a few years ago here. So our attendees are seeing a shift with similar conferences offering lunch with the cost of attendance. Recommendations for how a smaller conference can please attendees while not breaking the bank. So there's a couple of things here. One would be to try to get the lunch sponsored or partially sponsored. Again, with sponsorship opportunities in an event, not everything is going to cover 100% of the cost. So let's say that the lunch cost $10,000 and you can get it sponsored for $5,000. But you also sell sponsorship of the lanyards for $5,000 because that's incredible branding for them around everyone's neck for the whole event, but they only cost $500. So your overall revenue will help counter your expenses if you try to think big picture like that and have opportunities with high and low costs, but equal value to the sponsors. The other thing is to get creative around the F&B of the lunch, right? Buffets are cheaper than plated, and boxes and takeaways. And I'm sure there's some really great ways, Kirsten, you could talk to this more than me, about saving cost. Do you need a salad, a soup, an entree, and a dessert for every, lunch? Is it more casual and intimate? So Kirsten.
Right. Yeah, and definitely like offering less options for people to choose from. Like you said, you don't need 3 entrees to choose from. Like maybe you can do a vegetarian and then like a meat option or a fish option or something like that, just really lowering it. And like you mentioned too, we don't need a salad and a soup and a starter and a dessert and 5 sides. Like you can really just cut that back. Also in the sustainability, like trying to get away from doing like boxes and things like that, that can cut back on your spend, like not having, spending the money on boxing those things up. So doing that. And then a lot of times you can work with the hotel or convention center or wherever you're at and just let them know like you have X amount of budget that you need to spend or that you can't spend above, and they'll typically be able to work with you for the most part and also help you with those cost savings. And then, in addition, what Jennifer already mentioned about getting things sponsored, I think is key. And that's why we appreciate working with Jen's team, because they help us get sponsorships for things like this too. So we get to work together as a team for figuring things out like that and being creative.
Yes, creativity is key.
Always.
Last question. So what's the best way to promote your event and timeline? So this is pretty broad question. Obviously, it depends on the size of the event. And I think Cvent has some great resources in our throughout our website where we talk about this. But if you're doing a smaller event, you would start X amount of months out. If you're doing a larger event, more obviously. But in terms of ways to promote, I think multi-channel is best, right? So I know Cvent, we use social, we use email, we use lots of different channels to promote. We might partner with a media partner who will talk about our event in their magazine and reach a new audience. We may make sure that all of our attendees are promoting their event after they register, like I'm attending, aren't you? And sponsors and speakers, right? I'm speaking at this event, come join us. So it's like really not just all Cvent emails from Cvent, but using social, using our attendees and our advocates and our community, creating that FOMO and word of mouth with all that we have going on, and then putting out teasers of specific things within the event, right? So like we have this amazing keynote we just announced, right? So it's like new content to announce, new reasons to attend, things like that. Anything to add, Kirsten?
Yeah, Jen, I think that you said that all perfectly. We at Cvent just try, like she mentioned, that each event is going to be a little bit different with our promo timelines, but obviously the earlier the better. And as she mentioned as well, we try to go from every different angle, and whether it's from an attendee reposting or a speaker reposting or just a Cventer as well. So try to do it from all different channels, and I feel like it does well.
Yeah, and making it easy for them, right? So we will create assets that they can use to post on LinkedIn to say that they're attending, and it's really really easy. They just take it, and then they can post it, or they can add their own touch. But I think now with everything that is being put in front of everybody, and we're all being stretched really thin, to have something like that I can quickly share, because I'd want to, but I don't necessarily have the time to create a graphic and all the other information about the event, with the registration link, and have that all provided to me would be key. So
yes, 1000%. The easier, the better.
Yes. Great.
Well, I think that is all of our questions. Looks like we got to everybody. So thank you guys all for attending our webinar today. If you have any other questions, please reach out and use the webinars@cvent.com email address, and then feel free to follow Jen and I on LinkedIn, message us if you have any other questions too. We're happy to help.
Yes, thanks.